What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Obsession. I'm Carl Bethke.
I'm Mike Sadler.
How are we doing today, Mikey?
Great!
Great! Almost done with the first full month of the year, 2025.
Good.
Getting closer to the killing season, my friend.
Great.
Yeah.
Nobody likes winter.
Nobody likes winter. Winter sucks. Well, hey, it's a good time to scout.
It is.
And we got a question this week. Steven from New York asked us, how do you find bedding areas and how might you go about creating bedding areas on your private property for you to have the advantage for next hunting season?
Huh.
Jeez, we just did a show. Small property layouts, man. If you guys checked it out, check out, would have been, about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
I'll have to send you some more pics to put on for the podcast.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell people what you did first, Mike? It's kind of a cool idea. Check this out, you guys.
So, any of you guys that watch our stuff know quite a bit about our properties. So, I talked to Carl a couple weeks back on this, and my main ridge here runs east-west, but has a south-facing side, obviously. So, south-facing to the sun. I was telling Carl, like, the deer are always up there bedding. Mm-hmm. So, I was thinking, I'm going to get some straw, go up there, make these beds a little more comfortable for them. Obviously, we have food right below them, too. So they bed on that south side. The food's real accessible, especially this time of year. Mm-hmm. You know, January, late January, going close to February. So we went in a couple weeks back and just walked it in the afternoon. It's real easy to find beds once you start walking. And you just got to get in there where you think they are. And just start walking around. I mean, you'll see beds in there.
They're going to be little flat areas where you know you can see where the body of the deer had laid down. The leaves are meshed down. Usually, 9 times out of 10, there's either a tree vertical or some of the hinge cuts and stuff we had done. It kind of helps block the wind, also blocks them.
Some place to tuck
predators.
in. Yeah. Droppings. There's obviously
going
to be a bunch of droppings in those areas, more centralized. We got into, you can watch that podcast, but found specific buck beds off there, really isolated off back where those doe bed. A lot of rubs in there and stuff like that. Real thick tangled mess.
Yeah, and you're going to find that the bucks and does, even right now, don't bed together.
Nope.
Now the bucks will bachelor up, but they're smaller groups, where if you find like a doe group's bedding area, there could be 8, 10, 12, 14 like independent beds you'd see in an area. And some are bigger, some are smaller, representing adult does and fawns from last year. And that could just be 4 deer. But they have different locations they'll move to. And usually there's browse around in that area too, so smaller twigs currently, at least in our area, briars, berry bushes, stuff like that. They'll be nibbling on the ends of those, eating the soft tips off of that. But the bucks themselves are separated, and it's thicker and deeper.
It is thick. It's nasty in there. So, I mean, get in your property, look around for areas like that. Any place you got that's real thick, especially if you have south-facing ridges. If you're going to have that, you're going to have bedding on it. It just is going to happen. Obviously, not everybody has that, but what we did, we have one here. We went in with the straw just as an experiment, just really making them nice beds to lay in. Really what we're focused on, trying to keep the deer here, mainly the bucks.
Right.
The does always stay.
Want to get some sheds.
Get some sheds, get some antler drops. So that's what we did. Like I said, Carl, we'll put some of the footage in here that we did do. We just made straw beds right in the beds that were already there.
Yes, and we use straw, you guys, not hay.
Not hay.
Because if you put hay in there, they're just going to eat it.
They're going to eat it.
Yeah. So,
which is fine.
Yeah.
But if you want them to bed, the straw.
Yeah.
So we essentially, we picked the big spots where they were bedding, made a bunch of beds, and they are using them. We have a bunch of pictures. We set a couple cameras up.
Yep.
So, that's one of the biggest things that we've done.
Right.
Just as an experiment here lately, you know.
And if you're just looking for bedding areas on your property, like Mike said, the thickest stuff you have is pretty important, but the most important part of it is remembering direction. So east-west, if you have a north-south facing slope, in the mornings the deer are going to bed on the east side, and in the evenings they bed on the west side because of the sun location all the way across the top of the ridge. Yeah. So that's something you want to keep in mind when you're looking for beds. They like to face away from the top of the ridge so they can see down the ridge if you have ridges. They like to be able to see that. They put the wind at their back at most of the time just so they can scent check.
Yeah, the wind's coming
the
right over
hills.
top of them, so you're not going to come up from behind them.
Right.
So, and they can see you if you're coming from below them. So that's
How they stay safe.
yeah, that's any deer.
Yep. And they'll tuck in fairly tight, like we said earlier. You know, most of the bedding areas, if it's a doe group, there's multiple beds, different sizes. If it's a buck or a couple bucks, let's just say in a small bachelor group, they're going to be larger beds. If they're antlered bucks, let's just say it that way. Larger beds, less of them, and usually in thicker areas.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Any places where you have good thermal cover, too, on your property if you don't have ridges.
You might want to describe thermal cover for
Well,
me.
thermal cover, like we talk about it a lot, and we talk about basically pine trees, conifers,
Yep.
stuff like that doesn't go away, doesn't drop its leaves, stuff that's close to the ground and tight like that. That blocks wind. Deer don't like wind.
Yep.
Wind is a killer, especially this time of year. So, I mean, areas like that, even if your property's flat, obviously, like Carl and I set ours up to be close to food because they're going to move in close to food.
Yeah.
So if you have food off of some bedding areas, which you probably should anyway,
Right. Yep. That's a fact.
so
That's a given.
those are the spots they're going to move tighter to that food. Like the deer here don't bed on the south side of the ridge much at all during the regular season. They just don't.
Yeah, they bed on the north side.
They bed on the north side of the ridge, and
Yeah.
they're in the main bedding areas up on top and on the north. But as that food goes away and the temperatures drop, they move closer to my cornfield.
Right.
They always have, they always will.
Yes.
So that's how. Do I get a lot of sheds? No,
Right.
because usually they decimate the food and move on.
Yeah, and by
You
the
know.
time they're dropping
Yeah.
their sheds, the food's already
They're
gone.
somewhere else, like the neighbor.
Yeah, well, you'll have that at times too. I mean, it's good to find sheds on your property. It lets you know that the deer are around. But realistically, we set our properties up just to have the deer during our hunting season.
Yeah.
Honestly, the rest of the year, if they're not there while we're hunting them, we don't really care where they are.
No.
We'll let everybody else feed them. That's why we don't have a lot of summer
Yeah.
food on our properties. As a matter of fact, we have almost none.
Almost no summer food.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, in the last few weeks, it's been brutally cold here
Yes.
in Wisconsin. So the deer that are around this area have really destroyed the majority of my cornfield already.
Yeah.
So they'll be moving on without
Yeah.
without dropping me any antlers,
Okay.
which is fine as long as we can drop the antlers on the ground next year
With their head.
with their head in it. So
That's a fact.
That's-
Also, even our brassicas that we've put in, so our purple top tern, things like that. If they can't dig them out of the ground, they just eat them so they're flat.
yep,
It leaves a pocket of nitrogen in there, which was what we want to be in there for the soil for the next year anyway. You'll see this year again, like in Mike's lower plot, we don't do anything with it till it's time to get it ready for fall.
let's leave it.
So whatever comes up, it comes up in it. Like last year, it was
Yep.
all clover.
Yep, it was.
But the bedding areas obviously change throughout the year. Currently, it's good to find the bedding areas just because you can use that as a baseline for your hunts, Stephen. I wouldn't say that that's exactly where they're going to be depending on your property. You're from New York, and you didn't exactly say which part of New York you're from. Depending on what part of New York you're from, it could be a lot like we have terrain-wise here in Wisconsin. Some rolling hills and some steeper hills, a lot of wooded area. Then these same things would apply if you're closer to like a flat area or something like that. It probably a little bit different, or swamp areas. Bedding changes. The most important part is to get out on your land and locate it. Once you locate it, then you can make a plan for the following year.
Correct, sir.
That pretty much covers it, I think.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. We appreciate you guys listening. If you want to just check out the podcast, you can check us out at Spotify,
Google,
Apple,
iHeart,
Amazon.
RSS.com.
I think our pretty faces out right here. YouTube. You can also check us out at any of the other big name podcasts.
Yeah, anywhere you can get your podcast we are on. We're not going to go through the whole list.
No.
But
It's like 15 or 20 of them.
yeah, check out our new page that we have on Facebook, Blue Collar Bucks.
Yeah, if you guys want to check that out, there's just a bunch of people spending a lot of time together talking deer hunting and giving out information to help each other get better.
Real life guys every day. So later.
Later.